What is happening, traders? How are we doing today? We're going to be jumping into GameStop, AMC, and the overall market sentiment being in the dumps. But before we jump into it, make sure to slap the subscribe button because we are here every single day, twice a day, y'all. Doing this for free just because I love you. Before we get into it as well, I just want to say fortune favors the bold. You can see here the fear and greed index in both crypto and the stock market at extreme fear. And this is when I get absolutely greedy and look for a potential reversion signal. So in GameStop, we covered this a couple weeks back. We covered the Holy Grail trend line, this gold trend line that we've held every single time the last 3 times. 1, 2, 3. I call it the we're cooked trend line. And I say that because every single time we get down here, the sentiment of the community is absolute garbage. But this is where I get very, very greedy. And you look at where we're at today. We closed the weekly time frame. We closed it with a hanging man candle or a red wick off candle. You closed right above this Holy Grail trend line. Now, why is that important? Well, every time you've done that, you found significant upside. In fact, it's acted as a pretty crazy launch pad. Every single time you've seen one candle close and then the second one kind of mirror this bounce out. So what we're going to be watching is as early as next week. One candle close, second candle bounce out. One candle close. We're going to see if the next candle can potentially act as your bounce out above the 200-day EMA and getting back above this uptrend. But there could be a little bit more downside. There could be a little bit more downside. And I say that because there's a very particular line that was previous resistance that could be acting as new support. And this is, I can almost bet anything that nobody is talking about this, but you could potentially be doing this retest of your bull flag pennant breakout. And very unusual, but especially for this dramatic sell-off, but it does happen. And what I'm looking for here is even if you see a little bit of downside going into the early stages next week, that if you could see a significant bounce off of this $21 flat area or somewhere between that $20.50 area, see a significant bounce. And I mean like volume steps in, bulls are on parade, you close with a green bullish engulfing. Like that's the kind of bullishness I'm talking about because every single time you've seen these reversals, that is a bullish engulfing. Kaya, it's an inside bar, but close. And then that one was a bullish engulfing almost. I mean, the wick is insane. So what we're looking for is a potential bounce off of this previous downtrend to get us back above this uptrend, as well as just a bounce off of the we're cooked line. And what that'll do is that could potentially act as a bottom for GameStop stock. And I just got to say, like, all transparency, guys, I really like the risk to reward ratio at these levels. There's not a lot of times where you get the opportunity to long on an uptrend that has only led to beautiful things. Now, what you could do, even if you're a skeptic, even if you hate GameStop, there's not a lot of people like that, though. This is a pretty lovable stock. You could set your stop loss right below that uptrend and say, all right, you drop the uptrend, and I'll accumulate as it goes lower, maybe even all the way down to $9, right, for a double bottom. Who knows, right? Nobody knows the market sentiment. Or you have the potential to literally, to the tick, time the bottom of this move and then potentially get all this upside all the way up to $27, all the way up to $40. And that would be an insane 100% move. But this stock is no stranger to volatility, and I would not be surprised to see it do that. However, even if you drop below, and let's say you go back down to $18, right, down to $13, it's really just going to matter on the market sentiment as a whole. So what is the S&P doing? The S&P closed red on the week, but on the daily, you can see some insane strength here as you wick off the 50-day EMA, You close a very green, a very bullish hammer candle. Close at the top here off of way higher than the last 5 days. Green volume. So that is insanely bullish Friday close, in my opinion, on SPY. So I expect at least a little bit of a reversal here to the all-time high next week, which will make this downside look like a foreign stranger. So that is what we're looking for in the start of the week. Hopefully a nice recovery from maybe the government shutdown ending, maybe a crypto pump over the weekend, maybe war ending, right? I mean, there's so many different things happening in the economy in the world that could potentially lead to that V-shaped recovery. But that is my conviction. That is my thesis on GameStop, that even if you go down, you're not going too much further, around 20 to 2050 before you see that reversion. And like I was saying, sorry I got sidetracked, but like I was saying, even if you get down here, guys, fortune favors the bold. You see how much cash on hand that GameStop has to do either share buybacks, to do if the entire market goes down, right? Because I do not ignore the fact that you have multiple gaps here on SPY left from the tariff reversion. But even if the market comes down here to 599, 598.88, or potentially 564.26, even if the market comes all the way down to this 526 area, guys, GameStop is sitting on so much freaking cash. $10 billion in cash on hand and Bitcoin assets. Just let that sink in. Let that sink in, guys. There's going to be no company better equipped in the small cap industry than GameStop at that point. And I think even more so than some Fortune 500 companies, GameStop is well equipped to go into a bear market. God forbid, even if that were to happen. So think about what you hold in this stock that could potentially, depending on what Ryan Cohen does with it, I trust management to do whatever they have to do. Maybe even if you get down to $18, the whole S&P crashes. I believe heavily in this company that they will use that $10 billion to accumulate, to change the future of this company. So that is fascinating to see that no matter what, I think GameStop is going to be well off. In fact, I saw people waiting. There was a line outside my local GameStop, which was hilarious today. People waiting to get in at 11 a.m. They were there at 9, which was insane. But let's jump into, let's see my little chart here. Fear and Greed Index. Oh, I got a good one. GME point of control. VRVP. No, he made it invite only. That's so toxic. Why would you do that? Let's see if this works. It's thinking. That's kind of fascinating. So, not actually what I was expecting. Kind of interesting. Your point of control up here at $28, according to this indicator for the VRVP, the most volume traded, right where you saw that rejection from the pump out of that bull pennant. But as you could see, the volume kind of drops off significantly all the way up to 1775 here, or at least this horizontal resistance at 1861. So you need to see that reversal. Otherwise, you could just fade into the distance all the way down to $18. That would not be ideal because you can see this volume just takes a tank all the way down to that horizontal trend line where you saw the tap off that double bottom back in 2023, 2024. So fascinating stuff to see on the VRVP. Let's just get rid of that. I don't want to think about that right now. Into AMC, though, because AMC is in the worst position. AMC saw an absolutely rough day today. I'm sure with AMC morale in the dumps, but what can we analyze about this chart? Can anyone tell me? Yeah, it looks bad. It looks really, really bad. But right off the bat, you could see you have this ascending triangle that you have broken from. You broke down from the falling wedge, which is not supposed to happen. There's like a 70-30 split there in which the technicals were saying you were going to break up out of this triangle. So disappointed in AMC to see that. And I'm disappointed to see that you dropped this uptrend. However, guys, if you go to, I like TradingView for this. If you go to TradingView, you still held your all-time low. And so Monday is going to be absolutely crucial to see what you do. But even if you break that all-time low, guys, and I don't like to see it. I wouldn't like to see you break the all-time low. But even if you did, guys, you would put in a touch of technical bullish divergence for the first time on the weekly time frame that I know of at these lows since back here, which is slightly fascinating to me. It's almost like the institutions and the algorithms are pulling the exact same playbook that they pulled back here when you saw that macro double bottom or that macro triple bottom, right? What you saw, and I'll pull this up with the RSI, look at the bottom of your screen, right? Hopefully I can make that a little bit clearer. There we go. You saw a technical lower low on the stock. It looked very close to a double bottom, but you saw a technical lower low on the stock while making a series of higher lows on the RSI until you exploded in price action. And this was on the weekly time frame. So I've, no joke, I've been looking for this for quite some time on AMC, studying the RSI every single video before I post it, because seeing something like this could potentially be that the news is in moment in which maybe AMC partners or does something to help their cash on hand. Because currently, if they had one bad quarter, ladies and gentlemen, they would be out of cash. And so I think that's why you're seeing this move down, is because you have $300 million in cash. Last quarter, last earnings, it showed that you burnt about $280 million in cash. Now, what that does for you is that pretty much solidifies that AMC needs that vote yes to survive, unless it does something that it has to do, which is either shed a lot of its debt somehow, raise capital somehow. I mean, that's what really launched this thing, was the Reddit craze, and then also how they raised, I think it was $1 billion cash to keep the company afloat. And if you saw something like that, and this is an if moment, right? That entirely depends on what Adam Aron can do as a CEO. If you break this all-time low, there's a good opportunity that you're going to put in this touch of 1, 2, 3, your fourth touch of bullish divergence here, potentially with this uptrend and with this downtrend. Now, what that would do is to do that for the very first time since you did it back in 2021, which would be fascinating. That would actually be genuinely fascinating to see. But you're relying on Adam Aron as a CEO. So something to watch, right? I can't guarantee sunshine and rainbows, but what I can guarantee is that if you see that lower low and you don't see a significant knife down to this bottom trend line, that you will put in that touch of bullish divergence. Now, what happens after that? I have no idea, if I'm being honest. I mean, you saw the launch pad that it created last time, and that would be some kind of bullish news catalyst, I would assume, that takes you up from this low, and that would be a crazy bear fake out. I mean, everyone and their mama is saying that AMC is cooked here, and I would be remiss to say that it looks bad. Like, it does not look good, guys. But we're relying on the strength in which you could potentially see this double bottom hold or this triple bottom hold, your all-time low hold on Monday, because SPY, in my opinion, not financial advice, should have a green day Monday with this candle close. That is a beautiful freaking candle. And we know that AMC GameStop revolve around the S&P. So a green hammer candle and a wick on larger volume off the 50-day EMA. So, AMC, are you going to do it? Can you do it? It has created a little bit of optimism for me on the weekly time frame. Bullish div typically does send you, and you saw it back here as well. This was on the macro. So a crazy bullish div. 1, 2. You drop this trend line, and that's when you truly dumped, when you dropped this trend line on the RSI weekly time frame. Now, maybe this is another trend line that has been established that could take you higher. We shall see, guys. But downside risk, you have this falling wedge that you created from IPO. So your tap, and then your tap from the AMC Ape conversion. That was your bottom in the entire. That was your all-time low. So a potential break of this triangle formation could take you down theoretically. Knock on wood. Hopefully not. I would be very, very sad to see it, but could take you down to that 130 to 120 range on the stock, which would be terrible, but that would solidify that you're in a macro falling wedge for what it's worth. So that would be very interesting to me. So AMC not having its best day, not having its best week. However, that touch of weekly bullish divergence is what I wanted to cover on the stock, because that is exactly what you had in the previous schematic setup. So interesting stuff. Interesting times ahead. Hopefully you see some news drop for AMC. What I am certain of is I might add more GameStop. I might add below Ryan Kitty's average, which for all intents and purposes is always a good purchase. So not financial advice, guys. Please, please, please slap the subscribe button. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, which would be insane. I just want to thank you guys who reached out when I was gone. I was going through a review, and I was also very, very sick. So I'm glad to be back. I'm here every single day, twice a day if I can be, every single day of the week. So just want to make sure that we are continuing to be that light, that passion, that fire for you guys. If you guys found it entertaining, if you guys love the conviction in which I speak for, like the video and share it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao. Woo!